Alright, so I have this broken chair leg. Originally there was a screw in here, so I went ahead and took that screw out. As you see, clearly broken. So what I'm going to do is actually drill through this and come out the other side, and then take a screw from the top and go back down through, and that way I capture this leg here. Now, this is not the best way of doing this, but my woodworking skills are not the greatest, and I don't have all the tools necessary to actually dig this out and then put another dowel in on this part and then reinstall it the way it should be. So I'm going to, ideally, if I put a screw or two through here and come back down to the top half of this will hold all of this together and won't come apart. You can kind of see some of the glue that's on here from when I previously attempted to do it, and well, it held up for a little bit, but for the long term it didn't. This installation with using a screw should be the final fix. Alright, so the next thing that I'm doing is picking a drill bit that aligns with the thickness of the screws that I have. And so basically you want a drill bit that is slightly smaller than the screws, and it's difficult to do this on camera. You want something that's smaller than the screw. The reason why you want to drill first is so that the wood has a less chance of splitting, and at the same time you also don't want it too big, because if the drill is too big, then the screw won't actually grab the wood as you put it in. I'm almost ready to drill. I'm going to actually drill through going this way. This is the bottom of the chair, by the way. I'm going to drill through going this way and come out on the seat portion of the chair. And the reason I have this blocking here is so when the drill bit goes through the wood and comes out, that very last maybe 16th or even a 32nd of an inch has a tendency to always blow out because there's no resistance behind it. And so I've put this piece of wood here as and this is just a scrap piece of wood. So when that drill bit comes through that last little piece, that it doesn't blow out. An example of blowout on the wood would be like this. You see these splinters here? When you drill through, sometimes the wood will split like this on the end that is coming out of. You want to prevent that, especially on furniture, especially on the visible parts of the furniture. So that's why I have that piece of wood that is here to prevent that from happening. Alright, so I now have my hole drilled through. That hole was actually already there, so that's not the one I drilled. This is the one that I drilled. And so now that I have a hole all the way through, and as you see, it did not blow out on this side. So now what I'm gonna do is drill back. This is from the seat of the chair that you actually see. So drill back through, all the way back down into the leg, which is on the other side. And since this hole is already straight, according to the alignment that I did before starting, it should go back into the leg. It probably won't go, the drill bit is not that long, as you see. Really, it will get enough in there to be able to go to the top part of the leg, and that'll be it. So I'm gonna do that, and then I'm actually also drill out a little bit more of the top part of this chair, and then what I'm gonna do is actually fill the screw head in with wood filler, and then I can sand and stain that to kind of match the rest of the chair. Hopefully it'll blend in a little bit, but there may still be a little bit of noticeability of the difference between that particular mark and the rest of the chair, but I'll show you that once I get to it. Now, the head of the screw is obviously bigger than the hole, and so what I'm gonna do is to get a drill bit. So go over here, pick a drill bit that's close to the size of the head of the screw, and then drill down maybe 1/8 of an inch, and then that way I can cover the head of the screw with wood filler. Alright, so I have now drilled in, I guess you would call the recess head, and so what I'm going to do is actually stick the screw head into the hole. And so if you look at it from the side, you see it completely goes below the surface, like the head of the screw, not the screw itself, just the head. That means you have reached the appropriate depth. You can go down a little bit further, just make sure you don't go all the way through the wood, because if you go all the way through the wood, then the head of the screw won't stay in, and thus of course rendering the screw ineffective unless you get a bigger screw. So I'm gonna go maybe a little bit further, maybe like another 16th or 32nd of an inch down, so that I can actually fully cover the hole with wood filler. So after doing a little bit more of an analysis, I ended up deciding to change over to a actual wood screw instead of the pocket jig type of screws, because the type of head on the screw is a little bit different. So as you see, this screw has a flat head on top of it, whereas the pocket screws, they have a rounded head, kind of that dome shape. When it comes to filling it in, because it's flat, it's easier just to smooth over with the flat screw head, that is, and then it is to fill over with the round screw head. So this one goes away and we'll stick with this one. This particular screw is a 2.5 inch long screw, and so if you hold it up to the flat head the head being flat with the top of the chair, and you kind of line up, you can see about how far down it would go into the leg, and so that's a pretty reasonable length. I do have some 3-inch screws, but I think that might be a little bit too far, so I'm gonna stick with the 2.5 for this. So I said that I was gonna put some wood filler in, but I realized I have some wood glue already, and I also have this sawdust with a few other things in here. But the sawdust, if you watch my YouTube channel, you'll notice I did the garage project, so I had a whole bunch of sawdust left over from that. So I'm gonna combine these two things together and make my own wood filler, and then put those in the chair over there. So I have mixed together my, I guess you'll call it, imitation wood filler, and so all it is wood glue and sawdust. There's a few other things in here because it was a collection from what was all on the floor, but I kind of got it like a pancake batter consistency, so we'll see how that works out. So now I'm just filling the hole right here. So I have now added the makeshift wood filler, and this coverage area is actually wider than the hole itself, and the reason being is because when I go to sand it, you kind of want it to blend in, so you'll stretch it out over a wider area, and then when you sand it, it'll look wider, and it gives you more room to actually blend it in instead of just using that one particular spot where it's at, where it can be clearly standing out. So this will have to dry. I'm gonna give it some time to dry, and at some point later I'll come back and smooth it out with sandpaper, and then kind of do multiple levels of sandpaper, so maybe like 100 grit to start off with, and then like a 200 or 300 grit after that, and then I can restain, try to match what's here. I'm not well versed in the wood stain and colors, so I'm gonna try to do my best to try to match what's there, but I may get it wrong. But at least the chair will still be suitable and whatnot. It still has a little bit of rock to it, but it's not as nowhere near as when originally it was done, where the whole leg was broken. So if that leg was not exactly in the right spot, that the whole chair would actually tip you out of it.
That wraps things up for this video. If you have any questions, feel free to drop those down in the comments section below. We'll be glad to hear from you, and even share some of the experiences that you had with trying to repair a chair leg or bar stool leg that you may have. If you have not already, please be sure to consider subscribing to the channel by clicking the subscribe button below. Each week I come out with new videos in technology and home improvement, so if you have an interest in either of those topics, feel free to subscribe. And also check out my website, thealmostengineer.com, for additional resources and tutorials. Until next time, peace out.